training, what typically happens is this is where we teach the dog the new behavior. Usually we use more inducive methods. So when we say inducive, more positive reinforcement. However, if you look back in time, traditional dog training, we use compulsion. And even today, some schools or trainers will still utilize that technique. In the learning phase of training, initially we put all behaviors on a fixed ratio. And when I say a fixed ratio, again, we're reinforcing every proper behavior given by the dog. Ultimately, now we would put that on a variable schedule where we would reinforce or reward intermittently. And you can follow up with our other video on fixed ratios and variable schedules to learn more about that. Moderate to high value reward. And I'm going to go through the difference between the two. With a moderate level of reward or value of reward, what happens is it's not too much distraction for the dog. It allows the dog to actually process the information without becoming overwhelmed or overly excited. However, we have some dogs that, okay, we need a higher value of reward simply because they're not stimulated enough to perform. And so now we would move on to something, let's say like a ball, a tug, or if the dog was, again, a little bit more on the food side, something like hot dogs or cheese. We just have to get very creative. But what we're getting at is we want, let's say, stimulation, but not overstimulation. We always say drive is good if it's controlled. I usually equate drive to burning fire. Fire can either heat your home or it can burn it down. And so preferably in the learning phase, what we want is moderate drive, so it's easier for the dog to process the information. As time goes on and the dog learns the behavior, now we can inflate the drive because we already have a solid foundation. Session time. Ideally, we keep our sessions short, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. Anything over that, I consider that overkill. We want to basically end the session on a high note. We try not to get into the one more time syndrome where we're just repeating the same behavior over and over again. I usually, let's say a lot, maybe 5 repetitions per behavior. Now, when I say 5 repetitions, 5 well done behaviors. If we have to redo it, then that may add to it. But in general, what we try to do is to keep this session fairly short, so this way the dog doesn't become disinterested or bored. And it's the duration of the sessions. So you could have anywhere from 2 sessions a day to 6 sessions a day, but we try to keep them very short, very intense, and with a lot of fun. Okay guys, in the correction phase, what we're working on is reliability. Whether we're using positive punishment, which is the application of an actual physical correction, or negative punishment, where we're withholding what the dog really wants. Now, in the correction phase, what happens is we give our command as usual. If the dog doesn't respond, and again, this is if we're using positive punishment, we would repeat the command within 1/1000th of a second, administering the correction. The correction itself should match the dog's temperament. So again, when we say matching the dog's temperament, if you have a dog that has fairly subtle temperament, the correction wouldn't be overbearing or overwhelming. We would try to match the correction with the dog's temperament. And vice versa, if we have a dog that carries a lot of temperament, ideally, again, we want to match correction with temperament. Because overcorrection can be just as bad as undercorrection. With undercorrection, what we found is the dog became a little bit more resilient towards corrections. Then with overcorrection, what would happen is it would cause the dog to become a little bit more stressed, nervous, go into avoidance, and that's not ideally what we want. We want for the dog to actually respect the command, respect the exercise, and not fear. Hey guys, it's Chris here from Gemini K9, and today we're outside and we're going to be talking about proofing. And the proofing phase is where we create a lot of distractions or provide distractions for our dog during training. This stage or this phase is very important. Why? Because this is what guarantees you, well, I shouldn't say guarantee, but this gives you a little bit more comfort or security knowing that when I'm on the street walking my dog, he's going to behave properly. If I'm on the trial field, he's going to stay with me. He's going to provide all the behaviors that I need on time and the way it should be done. Proofing is very, very very important. Today we're going to show you how we can utilize toys in our proofing phase, aside from also using, let's say, real world situations, traffic situations, other dogs, other people. Today we'll just give you a brief example using our toy and working some obedience around the toy. Okay, as you see, I have my trusty wedge here. Flex is like totally cued in onto the toy. What's going to happen is I'm going to get him excited for the toy, and then from there we're going to throw in some obedience commands and see if we can work him around the actual toy itself. You ready, buddy? Let's do it. Oh, give it up. Oh, yeah. We have the dog on the down. Let's try and work the heel around the actual toy. Good boy. Ready? Put. Yeah. Good. Bite. Good. Good. Put. Good. Put. Good. Good. Right. Yeah. Good boy. Hi. Good boy. Good zeets. Good boy. Yeah, good zeets. Good boy. Yeah, good zeets. Good boy. Zeet. Oh, good boy. Yeah. Oh. So we worked a little bit of the sit stay with the use of the toy. You saw I was spinning it for a little bit. I threw it over to the left side, threw it over to the right side. The dog maintained position. Now again, our proofing phase also works in conjunction with our correction phase. So in order to get him to this level, we had to, at some point in time, incorporate corrections into the actual training itself, which we'll talk about later on. But this phase, like I said, is very important because what happens is it brings reliability to your work. Without the proofing phase, really and truly, obedience or your training is just worthless. We need to know that the dog will perform under any circumstance. And you're only limited by your imagination. So you can get creative. Use anything. Like I said, other dogs, people, cats, squirrels, whatever it may be. And it's not just limited to just obedience, but also in our tracking phase, in our protection phase, in any discipline in the way of training, we would utilize the proofing phase to bring us that reliability that we're looking for. Here. Wait, yeah. Good boy. Yeah. Oh. All right, there you have it. We also did the frontal position for the come command with the toy behind the dog's back. And if you notice, he was very cued in on me, didn't look back at the toy, which is what we wanted. We gave the command. He came in very strong, very tight, very close, and it was beautiful. We just released him into the toy. So what he learns is pretty much if he ignores the distraction, he will ultimately get rewarded. And in this case, he gets rewarded with the actual distraction itself. So you just have to get creative. Like I said, if you have a bite wedge like what we carry or the bite pillows, you can use that for your obedience. This is the same toy that we use for all our prelim work for our protection training. Which makes it easier once we start to engage him in secondary obedience around the decoy, because he's learned to work with a higher level of stimulation. Oh, that a boy! Yeah, that a boy! Get that thing, though. Good boy. We can also use the toy during the heel exercise, held on the outside of the dog, teaching the dog that he has to ignore the toy, pay attention to me. Ultimately, he gets rewarded with that same distraction. So like I said, just get creative.
Perfect. Yeah, good.
Guys, we've come to the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it in regards to the learning phase, the correction phase, and the proofing phase. And this is pretty much the meat and potatoes of your dog training. With that said, I hope you enjoyed it and hope you had fun. Keep up the good work. If you love the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. Take care.